Welcome everyone for another Apitherapy video. This time we'll be talking about another really inspiring topic, and it will be how a beehive is immortal. How bees found the secret of eternal life. Now this might sound really strange because we always hear all the time that bees are dying everywhere, they are endangered species and all that. And of course, I'm not telling you lies. I'm not telling you that worker bees, drone bees, queen bees never die. Of course, at the end of their life cycle, they do die. But, that being said, a beehive itself is supposed to never die. So if you understand a beehive as one being, instead of every bee being one individual being, if you consider a beehive as one being, then you can see that a beehive found the secret of immortal life. Actually, there are beehives, most probably, that lived on for millions of years, because bees inside a beehive will actually regenerate. All the bees will actually change. There will be a big turnover of bees in the beehive, and that's real for worker bees, it's real for drone bees, and it's also real for queen bees that will actually change. So by that turnover of bees in the beehive, if you consider a beehive as one being, and this is actually true because if you take one honeybee by itself, it wouldn't live normally, you wouldn't have a real life by itself. Of course, it's separate from others, so it's not all connected together, but we could really consider the bees in a beehive as cells. So if you consider that beehive as one being, well, that's it. You see how bees found that secret of eternal life. Now, the question is, how did they find that secret? Where is that coming from? How come a beehive can live for millions of years just by regenerating all its cells, let's say? Okay, so the secret is the purity of the products they work with. It's the purity of all the substances bees work with. And let's have a look at this one by one. Let's have a look at those one by one. First, royal jelly. So to understand the level of purity of royal jelly, think about this. When a queen bee is eating royal jelly, and that's what a queen bee is eating all the time, normally and under normal circumstances, well, that queen bee eating royal jelly will have no dejection at all. She eats royal jelly, but she has nothing to reject from it. Usually when we eat even really good food, like let's say an apple, of course we'll eat the apple, we'll process it, we'll absorb part of that apple, and then we'll reject, we'll have some dejection coming out from that apple that are considered from our body point of view as impurities that we cannot absorb. We have to reject those. So in royal jelly, there's none of those. It's 100% pure. The entire body of the queen bee will be absorbing that royal jelly, 100%, zero dejection. It is that pure. This is amazing, really. Very rare that you can find such food. So now let's have a look at honey. How honey is showing its level of purity. Of course, we all know it's coming from nectar from the flowers. This is very pure, very beautiful. When we picture, for example, paradise in our mind, of course, we see flowers everywhere. Because for us, flowers, we know somehow that they are very pure. And now there's another level of purity from honey. It's how long it will keep. How long you can keep honey good. They found honey in the pyramids in Egypt that had more than 4,000 years. It was still good, not putrefied at all. This is amazing. Honey can last for thousands of years and remain unputrefied. Really good. So this is how honey is showing its level of purity. Of course, there's other things, but this is one of the main, most shocking point about honey that we can understand. So Let's have a look now at pollen. How does pollen shows how pure it is? We know that pollen is the source of protein for the entire beehive, and usually high protein sources are not known to be that pure. Now, if we think about pollen, let's have a look at it. Think about pollen. It is the male substance of the plant that will fertilize a flower in order to make a flower become slowly a fruit. A fruit that will contain, it could be a very small fruit, but a fruit that will contain the seeds for more plants to grow. So pollen is that male part of the flower that fertilizes the flowers. And when you think about it, it's at the very beginning of life. Nothing happened to that source of food. Nothing happened to it. Nothing altered its quality. It's still so pure because it's at the very beginning of life. It did not even, it did not even yet fertilize a flower. It did not even turn into a fruit. It did not even turn into a seed. When we eat sunflower seeds, for example, we think, oh, seeds, it's very pure source of life. It's before a plant will grow, it's at the very beginning of life. There's not much alteration of that source of food. And we think, oh, it's very good, very pure. But pollen is even way before that. So it's really, really, really pure in that sense that it's very new, very, very fresh. You cannot have more fresh than this, really. It's just really amazing. So this is about bee pollen. Now, let's have a look at propolis, another substance from the beehive. Propolis, of course, is very pure because it comes from the immune systems of the plant themselves, which is their resin. And so, of course, it's not transformed. It's very natural, so we could say it's very pure. But there's not a way showing how pure is propolis. Bees will use propolis. They will put a thin coating of it everywhere in the beehive. Why? Because propolis will keep the bacteria, the funguses, the mold, and the viruses, all those bad pathogens out of the beehive. So the bees put a coating of it everywhere around the beehive. They put that envelope of propolis, let's say, around their home, around their beehive, and that protects the beehive from all those pathogens. So actually, a beehive itself is a cleaner place than our own home. Us human beings, we're very proud. We think we have the cleanest house in the whole on Earth, in the whole solar system, let's say. And but in fact, bees have a cleaner home because since they put propolis everywhere in the beehive, they don't have bacteria anywhere. They don't have mold. They don't have viruses. They protect their environment with the propolis. And this is just amazing. And not only they put it physically on the everywhere around, so it protects pathogens from coming in the beehive and on all surfaces, so there's no viruses, that remain on surfaces because of the propolis. It neutralizes them. Not only that, but also part of that propolis is actually volatile. So it even fills the air of that home, of that beehive, of that being. Even the air in it is actually clean. So this is sensational. It's just amazing how that propolis brings up the level of purity of a beehive strongly. So you saw the 4 main bee products. There's also, other bee products, bee venom, wax, and so on. And they all are pure in their own way. But let's say that we looked at the 4 main bee products. And now we understand how bees found the secret for immortal life, for eternal life, because purity is that secret. And they actually teach us that. This is amazing just by how they live. And now you will argue, what does purity do with eternal life? I don't get it. Well, think about all diseases, all illnesses. It's always a matter of some kind of impurity that entered our life somehow. It's either through our lifestyle or directly in our system, a bacteria, some kind of fungi, some kind of virus. Well, with COVID, I think you can figure that out very easily now. We always talk about it. So there's always some kind of impurity that is there that is creating some problem through our nutrition. Same thing. Is our nutrition pure? Big question mark right there. And we know that a lot of diseases are caused by bad nutrition. So there's so much, almost all diseases and illnesses could be explained by showing up what impurity entered our life and what brought slowly death to us. And that's what bees don't do, because they work always with really pure products. So this is the secret of bees. And now, then the other question will be, how come bees are now dying all the time? We always hear that they are endangered and all that. You know, if they live with that level of purity, how come? Well, it's very simple. The answer comes from us humans. We brought to the bees, because of, you know, extended beekeeping, we brought a lot of our own impurities that we create and we carry with us, and we brought that to the beehives. So it's a little bit like we kind of are really hurting that almost divine being that a beehive is. Like we hurt it at the point that it's now dying, while it's not supposed to die at all, because it's supposed to regenerate all the time. And since it lives in that level of purity, it shouldn't die, really. And if you think about it, it really shouldn't die. There's no reason why a beehive should die. So we did that by bringing in first pesticides. And is there a substance as impure as pesticides? Honestly, this is terrible. And we bring that everywhere in nature because of our way of feeding ourselves, because we put that, this is crazy, we put that, let's say, impurity, just to stick with the topic of the day, on our own food to protect it from, you know, some invasive animals or plants that will kind of put our crop in danger. So we put that very impure product on our own food. So we're crazy enough to do it, but by doing it, we actually put it also on that very pure original source of food of the bees. So we bring that pesticide to the bees, and so we put a huge impurity in their own system, in their own life, and they lose that level of purity. And now, yeah, they can die like any other being could die. And this is terrible. So that's pesticides, so that's one. And now the other biggest one, according to me, is all the parasites and all those, you know, diseases of the bees that are out there. And as human beings, as beekeepers, this is really sad. You know, I'm a beekeeper myself, and I really do it really well, like very naturally. But, you know, extended beekeeping, commercial beekeeping spread so much disease to the bees. This is terrible. There's one that just happened in Quebec, actually, that beehive beetle, small beehive beetle or something in English, not sure, just has been brought in Quebec by a beekeeper, very unreliable, that brought this without inspection, brought that new pest to the bees in Quebec. And now we have this to deal with. And this is all caused by human beings. That spread of the disease of bees is all brought by human beings, by beekeepers most of the time. Very unreliable, terrible. So it's crazy, because we're supposed to be beekeepers and to keep bees, but we actually brought huge impurities in forms of parasites, let's say, of many different types, to the bees, and we spread them, because there's always some beekeepers that won't be reliable. So this is very sad. And so that's one really sad aspect of beekeeping that happened. And it's still there, it's still happening. Even this year it happened here in Quebec. It's crazy. So it's still there. So you see, It's us, human beings, that brought those impurities that we live with, and we actually brought them to the bees. It's kind of sad. In the meantime, it's really good to know all this because it brings awareness and it tells us what can we do working with bees, what can we achieve, and what are bees teaching us about purity and impurity and eternal life and all this. You know, we can learn a lot out of that. And I think it's very important to know all this and to change a little bit things and stop bringing our impurities to bees and instead learning from them and change our own lifestyle into a way more pure lifestyle and take away, take off some of those impurities from our life as humanity. So thank you very much for listening. I think you can see really well the connection with that inspiring vision of this immortal life that the bees live and apitherapy, because in apitherapy, that's why apitherapy is so important, because it's connected with that immortal life that the bees live, and through all those different bee products we can get closer to that balance of a pure life if we do all this really well and we do good, respectful, ethical beekeeping. So thank you very much for watching, and see you another time for another apitherapy video.